Well, in 2006, May 2006, Paul was diagnosed with pancreatic cancer. It turned out to be the tail of the pancreas, not the head. He had a rogue blood test, which led to an X-ray, which led to a scan, and he really hadn't had any symptoms. So we felt that we had got it early, and surgery was arranged a couple of weeks later. I got a phone call from the surgeon, who introduced himself and said, "I'm sorry, but we've opened up your husband. There is nothing we can do. So we have closed him up." And I felt absolutely strobed. "So how long do you give him?" And he said, "I can't possibly say." And I said, "About 3 months." He said something like that. We were dropped into the abyss from that moment. And the only thing that salvaged us at that time was the anaesthetist, who turned up at Paul's bedside the next morning with 2 takeaway coffees and said, "I'd like to introduce you to a patient who's been through this and is now 9 months down the track." And he gave him a book called Survival in the Andes, about a plane crash and somebody who survived. And he said, "This is what it's all about. It's about survival." And I can't tell you what that did. It picked Paul up and gave him courage. We were introduced to treatment with Professor Michael Finlay, who in turn introduced Paul to a trial which had been carried out in Italy. It involved 4 known drugs in a different combination. And he said, "I can't promise you that we will cure you, but we'll give you an extension of time." However, the next 7 weeks, we were living in a void. If you're a spouse or a partner or a family, you're actually all involved in this together, and that the person who offers the most support is the immediate person in somebody's life. When people are diagnosed, they don't always hear very clearly what is being said to them, so it's very important to have a support person and a carer along with you to hear what is being said. And I do think now that hopefully there are now better websites and material available which can help guide the person. But I do think that the medical profession needs to consider that the spouse, the husband, the wife, the mother, the parent are equally involved in this journey. I have to say that once you're on a path which offers hope, for example, once we began chemo, we felt immeasurably encouraged because we were doing something positive. And once we took control of everything else ourselves, the diet, the exercise, the rewards for, we used to reward ourselves for every month or couple of months, we'd go away for a weekend. I feel that I can just help them take steps to enhance their lives. Proteins, diet, exercise, relaxation, staying positive, surrounding yourself with friends who are supportive, happy, and who and to make sure that you watch comedy and not not death and drama. So, I mean, everybody finds their own path, but there are certain things that steps you can take which I think give you a sense of positivity. The surgeon who had essentially rejected us agreed to go back in and operate, so he went back in, removed the tail of the pancreas, the spleen, and one or two other bits and bobs, and Paul didn't look back. I believe that the Canopy team in Auckland, who care for people with cancer, I believe that their attitude has changed in recent years, because I think we've all been on a journey together, and I think that they're much more approachable. I think also that the work that the Gut Cancer Foundation is doing to bring attention to people through online sites, through brochures that they're producing, are offering everybody an opportunity to have a conversation about these things that really matter. I had to keep people away who had colds or any viral infection. I had to keep people away who were negative. And, I'd say to people, come and see Paul, but you must be positive and, jokes please, not negative stories. I found that with family and friends, it was very important at the beginning to schedule a time when they could come and visit, because we needed time out ourselves. I found it very useful to send out emails to people, because the thing that absolutely drives you insane in the beginning is the number of well-meaning people who phone you. Sometimes one person was phoning every day. So many friends poured in with care and gifts and food and kindness, but we were also subjected to a lot of people with crank ideas who said, don't let them put toxins in your body, try these alternatives, and they suggested all kinds of bizarre things. And we felt really pressured. Essentially, we heard them and said thank you for your advice, but essentially we ignored them because we felt it very important to go with our oncologist, and it's very important to discuss these things, I think, with the oncologist, because sometimes these things are not harmful, but other times I think that some of these self-medications can in fact be harmful to the treatment they're giving you. After the chemotherapy began, 2 months down the track, he had a scan which showed, for the only time we ever saw the scans, that this nasty little tail on the pancreas which was quite bloated, was diminishing. There are a number of people out there now who have survived the 5 years, which is the crucial point, and the treatments get better every year, and that's what the Gut Cancer Foundation is focusing on, trying to verify one trial against another to see which are most effective. The wives of people who have been diagnosed, some have telephoned me, but others I've found out about so many months down the track, and that's my big regret, because I feel that I can help people. I don't attempt to tell them what treatment they should be having. I just attempt to tell them that there are ways that they can make positive steps in their lives to deal with this situation. There's this book Life, Happiness and Cancer, Survive with Action and Attitude by Phil Kerslake. An authentic account, and it told the tale of a young man who at 21 got cancer and over a succession of years survived one manifestation after another of cancer, but finally married, had children, and as far as I know is still alive and living in Christchurch at this moment. So that introduced us to a plan for living, if you like. We turned our attention to diet, and again we could get at that time, no help whatsoever. So this book suggested various things: cutting out all processed foods, cutting out barbecued foods, focusing on cruciferous vegetables, which included broccoli, which I don't think he ever wanted to see again when he recovered. So it was actually a very holistic approach. And we went through juicing the carrots and celery. And one of the things that we were told immediately was it was very important to keep your protein levels up and your weight levels up. So we did focus on that. He went through the process of learning transcendental meditation, which he practiced twice a day. He would have acupuncture the following day, and again that re-energized him. He continued to live a very normal life, which involved exercise. It involved keeping up most of his work commitments, but it also involved taking at least 2 hours out of every day in the afternoon and relaxing totally. I think one of the things that is overlooked is the fact that as the support person, the partner, the wife, whatever, it's very important to feel that you have a role in supporting and helping the patient, because I found that between the diagnosis and treatment commencing some weeks later, that I was the person who struggled most. I would turn to my husband in the middle of the night and think, when he was sound asleep, that's when I did my grieving. And I used to think, this can't be happening to us. This person who is so palpably alive will not be with me in 3 months. And so therefore it became terribly important for me to have a role to play, to support him. And I have to say, whether that journey beyond cancer is long or short, however long or however short, those months are incredibly important. They allow you to deal with family matters, to address your family, establish a will, put your affairs in order, and I'm surprised how many people don't do that. And generally work towards, hopefully, the rainbow and not the sunset.